ever heard of before. So GAILs is a very interesting concept. And when I first understood it, holy cow, it really made sense of how and why I have been sabotaging myself. So if you guys are feeling like you are sabotaging yourself as well, I want to kind of see that in the chat or be able to kind of let me know in any way that you are watching this, because it is really important for us to understand that first. And I will give total credit to the whole GAIL concept to Bruce Schneider, who is the owner of IPEC. That's where I went to get my coaching certification from. And if you guys are looking at any kind of coaching certification, whether it's life or business or whatever kind of coaching you're looking for, I would highly recommend checking out IPEC.com, because Bruce Schneider is the one who created this concept. So we're going to be doing this in a two-part series here, where we're going to be talking about how we can stop sabotaging ourselves. We've got amazing goals and dreams that we want to pursue and that God has put on our hearts. And so that's exactly where we're going to start, is that we need to be able to overcome that inner dream stealer voice, that voice that holds us back. And that's where we want to make sure that we're understanding, because awareness equals protection. And so that's where this is going to come in. So if you guys don't already know me, I am Elise Smith, your faith-based business coach, and I empower Christian women entrepreneurs everywhere to be able to achieve their sales goals and to reach their potential that God has given them. Those goals and those dreams in their heart that you guys feel that you are called to achieve. And so let's go ahead and get started with our biblical success principle, because that's where we're going to go every single time. Is we are always going to start in the scriptures, because there is no better place to learn these amazing principles and amazing things to grow your business than in the Bible. So let's go here to Mark 3:25, and it says, "And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand." And, we think about this concept between, a house as in like multiple people in the home, maybe fighting against each other. I live in Utah, and we have this big rivalry between BYU college football and U of U. And I'm a BYU fan. It's actually in my blood. I bleed blue. My third cousin, I think it is Lavelle Edwards, who is the best coach at BYU ever. But you see on some of the houses around here that there's a blue sticker and a red sticker, and it's like house divided. And it makes me think of this every single time. But it's not necessarily about people divided. It can be about ourselves as well. And it's this concept of having this angel and this devil on our shoulder constantly fighting. And the more that they fight, the more energy that we lose. And that's why we're going to talk about these GAILs, things to really watch out for, because when we're dealing with our challenges and our trials, it's best to really look at what's going on underneath the issue, because oftentimes we blow up or we turn into a ball of tears over things that have affected us over a long period of time. It's that straw that broke the camel's back. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Like, I definitely had my breakdown moment not too long ago. And it was interesting to look back at all of those so-called straws that broke that camel's back. So let's learn what these demons are for us so that they can't stop us anymore. And this is a great acronym, once again, by Bruce Schneider with IPEC, and it's called GAILs. And these are acronyms. So it's gremlins, assumptions, interpretations, and limiting beliefs. And we're actually going to start backwards, because I want to start with the things that don't affect us quite as much and then go deeper into the things that do. And I want you guys to kind of let go of some of those preconceptions that you might have around, especially maybe the word limiting beliefs, because we're going to look at it in maybe a little bit of a different way than you have thought of before. So let's start with the L in GAILs, limiting beliefs. Now, that's the most, the thing that I think a lot of people lump a lot of different limiting beliefs, so to speak, those things that really hold us back, they get lumped into that. And you're going to start to see the difference between the two, and then, all four of these actually, so that you can understand how that's holding you back and what is that affecting. So how do your beliefs about the world and about the part that you play, how do those affect you? And that's the thing about limiting beliefs, is that this is about the world and our circumstances, not necessarily about us just yet. So think about the beliefs that you have about the world and your circumstances. How do they help you or empower you? Or how do they hurt you or disempower you? So oftentimes we don't realize that our beliefs have such an impact on the world that we create. And so let's define what limiting beliefs really are. And if you guys are watching, I want you to say hi so I know who is on here with me here today, so that we can help to tailor this to any questions or anything like that that you may have. So the definition of limiting beliefs from IPEC is concepts that the world creates and you apply to yourself as truth. Right? There's so many things that come in our brain and that all of a sudden become truth for us. And there's a difference between like a little truth, like a little T truth, and a big T truth, like a capital T truth. And that's the truth that we believe about ourselves and our circumstances and the things that go around us. That's the little T. Whereas the big T truth is the actual truth about us, especially as daughters of God, and the power that we have to co-create with God the things that we want to have and the things that He wants to bless us with. So if we have these thoughts that come into our brain, such as, women don't make as much as men and they never will, right? And we take those things that are around us and we apply them to us, then that is something that can really limit us. That's why they're called limiting beliefs, right? And so thinking about that, think about some of those limiting beliefs that you might have. In fact, go ahead and share them with us in the chat so that we can learn a little bit more about what you're going through. Because the fact of the matter is that the limiting beliefs that you have, they're not unique to you. A lot of times we all have those types of limiting beliefs. And we'll go through some examples here in just a second. But more often than not, you accept that limiting belief as true because you've learned it from someone else. So from something that happened to you, maybe like as a child, or from an authority figure, such as the media or a book or a movie or a parent or a friend. But the thing about limiting beliefs is that we have to ask ourselves, what meaning am I giving to this situation or event? Right? If you look at what's going on in the world around you, what kind of limiting beliefs are you allowing to stick to yourself? It's kind of funny. I was working on my book with my awesome book coach, Tiffany, and we just had an interview a couple of nights ago. And we're actually going to redo that again because the audio is a little bit off. But here's the thing, is that I didn't even realize this about myself, because she was kind of asking about quirky things about me. And every time that I eat chocolate, and I don't do it anymore because it gives me migraines, but every time that I used to eat chocolate, I would get it stuck to me. It would be on my elbow all of a sudden, or it would be on my shirt. I have no idea, but my husband thinks it's the cutest and funniest thing ever, is that I would always have chocolate somewhere on me after I got done eating chocolate. And and I have no idea why that is. But the thing is it's the same thing with beliefs around us, is that all of a sudden they stick to us like that chocolate. And we're like, oh, I didn't even realize that was on my elbow. And then that's actually really affecting the way that I see the world. And so think about those limiting beliefs. So here's a couple of examples. So women don't make as much as men, so therefore I'll never make as much as the men around me. Yeah, let's throw that one away. No one I know has done this, so it can't be done, right? Only weak CEOs cry. I have to do this all by myself or it doesn't count. Successful people are lucky. You have to grind to be successful. It's that hard work concept, right? Hard. Money and success don't come easily. So some of those things might have just triggered you of like, yep, that might be one of mine, right? And I'm sure that there's a ton out there that you could relate to, but it's these things that happen in our world that we just let stick to us. So here's some tools to overcome your limiting beliefs. So first off, we need to be aware of it. That's awareness equals protection every single time. And that's that first step. So really, I would encourage you to write down what are some of those limiting beliefs that you have maybe allowed to stick to you like that sticky chocolate. So we're going to challenge it. We're going to say, how true is that for me really? Or where did I get that idea? Right? Is that when we start to challenge it, where it came from, and then we start to see that it's not really true, or how true is that for me really? Or how true does that have to be for me? You know, this concept of successful people are lucky, if you really do believe that, then it's just all up to fate and you can't do anything about it. And you can first off realize that that's a very disempowering way to look at success. But then you can do something about it by saying, no, successful people work hard. They have faith and works like we know about, that when we have faith and works, amazing things can happen. And so that's the thing I want you guys to remember, is that we need to challenge those thoughts. We can't just let those things come in and just settle and stay and wreak havoc on our minds and our mindset. We need to say, how true is that for me really? Or where did I get that idea? When we start challenging it, that's when we can start taking back that agency that we have been given to be able to overcome those negative thoughts. You can explore what effects this belief has had on you. Remember that awareness. And what proof do you have against that belief? Right? Is that if you feel like success is just a luck thing, well, then you can look and be like, no, I got to where I'm at with amazing work and amazing faith, right? You can always see, in the scriptures, it talks about seek and ye shall find. Well, what are we seeking? Are we seeking for basically continuing that lie that's been told to us without even realizing it sometimes? Or are we seeking for something that's going to empower us? So we get to create our own belief or actually modify different aspects of it by looking for that proof, by challenging it. And the scripture that we have goes along with this is Philippians 4:13. And it says, I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. And I love that scripture because the fact of the matter is that we don't have to let those things of the world and those circumstances that we're in define our future. And so I think about the Roger Bannister story. And if you guys have heard about this, please feel free to share. But this story is incredible. So in 1954, there was just an attempt to run the 4-minute mile. And there's so many different people who tried to run the 4-minute mile. And people said that there's no way that you could possibly do that, right? That it's not possible to run the 4-minute mile. And because of that, that perpetuated that. That was the world around them saying that. That was probably an authority figure at the time saying that. And so people took that in and said, well, there's no point of even trying for it because it's not possible. Well, guess what? Roger Bannister refused to let that be his truth. And he actually created his own belief and did it. He did 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. So he did just barely that 4-minute mile for that 1 mile. And then what happened is amazing, is that it actually encouraged others to start doing it too. And then they all started doing it, right? Is that once we can see that it's possible, then we believe that we can do it. One of those beliefs at the top was nobody else has done this before, so what makes me think that I can do it, right? But guess what? We can be the person who sets that new trend, who helps to really empower other people so that they can believe in themselves and do it too. Let's pave that way. So the first thing I want you to think about is how have limiting beliefs, like especially what kinds of limiting beliefs, have been affecting your mindset and your business. I want you to shatter those limiting beliefs and light the way for others to do the same by challenging those beliefs, being aware of them, and then challenging them. Isn't that incredible? I love looking at limiting beliefs in this way because we don't even realize the sticky chocolate mess that we get into by letting those beliefs stick to us. So that's the first one, is the L in GAIL, limiting beliefs. Now let's go on to the second one here, which is interpretations. So we have GAIL. So the I is interpretations. And the definition for this here is creating an opinion about an event, situation, or experience in life. So think about something that you have created an opinion on when it comes to an event, situation, or experience. So that could be something like you interpret that you didn't wear nice enough clothes to a sales appointment, and that's why they didn't buy from you, right? Something silly like that. Or they just don't like me, and that's why they didn't buy from you. Or I'm just not good at sales. Or no one takes me seriously. You know, you talk about this event, and then we start making interpretations around it. And this can work. All of these things can really work for our good or our bad, right? We can take these things and we can say, you know, just like with the law of opposition that's taught in the Bible, is that those things can either empower us because we're looking at them in an empowering light, or they can disempower us because we're allowing them to be looked at in that disempowering light. So the same thing with interpretations here. Excuse me. How is that opinion affecting you and your results? Are you allowing it to be empowering or disempowering? Because most people believe their interpretation is totally correct, right? Is that we interpret things all around us to be able to make sense of the world. And so we want to make sure that we're not just allowing those automatic responses, the autopilot in us to just say, okay, this is what this means, and then now I believe it. We want to almost second guess our interpretations because our brains are going to take the path of least resistance every time. And so if we automatically look at something like maybe losing a sale as, or maybe a big client that we're going for, as a disempowering way or in a disempowering way, then we're going to keep doing that over and over and over again. So let's empower that by really choosing that and not going on autopilot. So the interpretation often represents only one viewpoint among the many that are possible in that situation, right? If you come out of a business meeting, right, to try and get a big client signed, and you interpret that situation of losing that client as it's all about you because you're awful and blah, 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 right? Or that you did something wrong, then you are more likely to look at that same way every single time. They are personal opinions, guys. They're just one way for us to look at that, to have that viewpoint. So it can be hard to let go of that because it's that personal opinion, and it's the same way we've looked at it every single time. In fact, ask yourself, am I only looking at this from one point of view? That's why it's sometimes really, really helpful for us to talk it over with a friend or a coach or a mentor, because they help us see a different point of view. But we can do that for ourselves too. In fact, the next time that you feel like you are interpreting a situation, I want you to write down at least 2 other ways to look at that same situation. I have this amazing process that I talk to and then I work with my one-on-one clients, where we help turn their inner dream stealer into their inner dream builder. And a portion of that process is to look back on a situation that really framed a lot of what they're going through, the situation where they're not getting the results that they want. And we look back on that situation, we say, okay, what's another way to look at this, right? What's another viewpoint that might be more empowering for us to look at? And it's fascinating to start seeing the differences. You know, it's like we take path A because we started to look at it in this light. But what about path B? Could path B actually get you to the result that you want to have if you start looking at it in that light? It's pretty amazing what we can do. And it's amazing that God gives us the opportunity to be able to co-create with Him what we want, to be able to create what we want to have in life. And it all starts with our thoughts and our mindset. And I know people talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but what are we doing with that stuff that we are taught? So really think about that. So you're going to ask yourself, am I only looking at this from my viewpoint or from one single viewpoint? So let's talk about those tools to overcome it. So once again, we're going to really be aware of that. So what are some ways that you are interpreting situations? And maybe those are a little bit harder to see after the fact. Maybe it's more looking for those things in the moment. Like, how am I interpreting this yucky feeling right now? You guys know what I'm talking about. When you just feel crappy, you're like, okay, how am I interpreting the event that triggered that? That's a good way to kind of start getting that awareness. And so we're going to challenge it. We're going to say, what's another way to look at this? What would be a more empowering way? And if you are having a hard time finding the empowering way, just ask yourself, what's any other way for us to look at this? Ask someone else's opinion. I love the fact that my husband, I can bounce every idea off of and every single opinion and thought that I have. And he helps me to see it in a little bit of a different light. And the same thing with my coaches that I work with is because, of course, I have coaches as well. And I say, okay, help me to see this in a different light, because sometimes we get stuck in that box, right? And you can also ask yourself to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Maybe your situation has to do with another person. And if you put yourself in their shoes, then you might be able to see that it's a different situation than what you actually see, because we only see this tiny little part of the whole picture. And so we want to be open to that. So the scripture that we have to go along with our interpretations is Proverbs 18:2. And it says, "A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself." We want to discover what is really going on here. So how have your interpretations been affecting your mindset and your business? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. I love that quote by Stephen R. Covey, is that we're going to seek to understand the different ways that this interpretation could really play out, or what really happened here, from so many different types of angles, so that we're not pigeonholing ourselves into the one possibly disempowering way to look at it. Then we can really understand the full picture. And that's what God wants us to do. And so that's just 2 of these amazing 4 GAILs that we are going to be talking about to help us overcome those challenges that oftentimes we actually create because we're sabotaging our own efforts. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. And if you want even more, if you're not already a member of Faithful Ladypreneurs, come join us in our free Facebook group where we can love on you. We can help support you in your goals and dreams. You get amazing free training. And there's a great supportive environment here to celebrate your successes and share those things that are really difficult for you. We want to help support you and take you to the next level. And if you want to talk about your GAILs, those things that are really holding you back, especially just like we talked about how it's really important to use maybe a third party to see it in a different way, let's chat. I opened up my calendar here, so I want you to go to divinelydrivenresults.com and apply for a consult. I'm looking for very specific people for my new 1-year program, and I really want to see how that fits for you. So go ahead and fill out those questions, apply for a consult today so we can see how I can best serve you to be able to overcome these GAILs. And don't miss our next show, which is Thursday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where we are going to be doing part 2 of these GAILs. We're going to talk about gremlins and assumptions next time. So make sure you don't miss that. Mark your calendars in whatever way you're watching this right now. Come back to us and we will definitely talk about that. Do some introspection, because I think that there's a lot here. Maybe re-listen to this as much as you can and start, taking out that paper and pen and write those things down. What are ways that you're looking at your life, your circumstances, even your own thoughts in a disempowering way? And how can we turn that around and start focusing on the angel instead of the devil on our shoulder? Thanks so much for watching, guys.